Hey, the Knicks just made their deepest playoff run in 25 years, and so, of course, they couldn't wait to fire their coach, Tom Thibodeau, which they did yesterday. The announcement coming 3 days after they were eliminated in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Final against the Pacers, against whom they were favored. Here was Stephen A. yesterday on the stunning decision.
Why the hell is he out of a job? Again. He's not flawless. Does it make sense, ladies and gentlemen, for us to look at Leon Rose and the New York Knicks and say, yo, you kind of compromised him because he's a defensive-minded coach? I just think that when the man just took you to Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals, when the team wasn't what it was last year in terms of grit, because of the moves you made as the executive of the team, firing the coach is just bordering on a scapegoat status. But that's just me.
So that's just him, and let's hear what our crew has to say. Again, Coach Bickerstaff coached against Thibs and the Knicks in the first round of the playoffs. Alan and Monica, you know the insides of this team and this organization as well as anyone working with them on a day-to-day basis. But Winman, I will start with you. People are waking up this morning saying, why did the Knicks do this? What is the answer?
There was something interesting that happened in this Eastern Conference Finals that was actually unusual, and that was that Tom Thibodeau made changes to his coaching style. And when it was successful, and I'm talking about changing his starting lineup, putting Mitchell Robinson in, going deeper into his bench than he had all season, changing up some of his strategies, when that worked after the Knicks were down 0-2 and they won 2 of the next 3 games, in a strange way, it underscored, I think, the Knicks' decision to fire him because it showed that he was maybe way too rigid. And it's hard to negotiate with Thibs. He's not somebody who uses his assistant coaches, so it's not something like you could negotiate with him about changing his staff to change his rigidity going forward. And then there were the instances during the season where his own players, kind of questioned him. He had Mikal Bridges, who's the Iron Man of the entire NBA, at one point coming out and saying he basically needed to play less and Thibs needed to use his bench more. Even the change to Mitchell Robinson in that series, Josh Hart, who went to the bench, said that he'd actually come to the coaches with it in the previous series against the Celtics. So sometimes changes can actually underscore weakness, and that's what happened here.
It's a fascinating thing. And so you got Stephen A. wondering if this was management-driven. Many will wonder if it's owner-driven because the owner has been known to be impetuous in the past. Some will wonder if it was player-driven because you heard, Mitch, the comments there that Wendy just referenced from Mikal Bridges and whatnot. I will ask Alan and Monica. Alan, you first. What is your sense of where this came from, why it happened?
This feels player-driven. This feels like something that throughout the season there have been rumblings about players who are not happy with their roles, confused by their roles. Lack of accountability with certain players sometimes throughout the season when it comes to defense or assignments or other things like that. It has been building throughout the season, but it was something that you felt like the players publicly and most of the lead players, especially Jalen Brunson, you heard his final statements of the season were in support of Tom Thibodeau. It just seemed like that you just keep moving forward and you make your adjustments. It did not seem that it was going to reach a point where they would make a drastic move like this, but the players in their exit interviews with front office and also ownership, enough of that information was collected to feel like if a move was going to be made, you got to make it now. So I would very much put this on the players.
Monica, what's your reaction?
Surprised but not shocked. I think in today's NBA, and we've all been around the league long enough to know, it is very collaborative. And as Wendy and Alan just laid out, like if the conversation is not a two-way street with not just your players, but with front office, with folks that are involved with seeing the organization move forward, it gets a little tricky. And I think now, because of the opportunity this year and a championship really being in your view in terms of what's happening in the Eastern Conference, this is done with respect for what Thibs helped to establish in terms of the last 3 years and the back-to-back 50-win seasons. But I do think moving forward, you got to jump into 2025 NBA and some of the things that worked of yesteryear, as we saw in the Eastern Conference Finals, you just can't hold on to those that tightly.
The life of a head coach in the NBA and JB, I'm literally saying this in front of you, is not an easy one. I was sent this statistic. I'm just going to read you these quickly. 4 of the last 6 championship-winning coaches have been fired. 2 of them have been fired twice, both of them by Phoenix. Every coach of the year between 2017 and 2023 was fired within 4 years of winning the award. Thus is the lot in life. And this is something that you literally were born into, for anyone who doesn't know. And Coach's dad, Bernie, was a head coach in the NBA forever. So you've watched the evolution of this. When Alan and Monica are talking about the way, the power, I guess, for lack of a better word, that players have in this equation these days. How have you seen that evolve over the course of your career and of your life?
Well, first of all, I want to say this. Thibs is an outstanding coach.
Thank you.
He's done a great job with this New York Knicks organization, and everywhere he's been, he's helped teams get better. So I want to say that first and foremost. Not here to place blame on anyone, but here to talk to you about the change. Like when my dad was a head coach, when I was growing up, the most important person in most organizations was the head coach. And the times have shifted to where, the players have been empowered, and they should be. They're a big part of this. So our job is to form partnerships and relationships with guys. We want to get this thing where their input is important. They want to respect our input, and then we can put together not only game plans, but how we're building for the future so we're all on the same page. So when they go out there and they're competing, they're executing, they have ownership of what they're doing while we're standing on the principles that we believe in as well.
Yeah, it's a fascinating dynamic. Each sport has its own unique dynamic, I think, when it comes to that. Of the 3 that I cover closely, baseball, the job of the manager, I think, is to create an atmosphere, a clubhouse atmosphere in which everyone can thrive because of the long nature of the sport, and they're together every single day. In football, the X's and O's and the strategy are such an enormous part of what they do. And then basketball is sort of like a hybrid, an unusual hybrid of the two. Yeah. The New York Knicks, prior to the arrival of Tom Thibodeau 5 years ago, were, for 20 years, they were worse than a laughingstock. They were something that they were an irrelevance. There was like a vacuum where they had previously been. And he changed that through his basketball knowledge, through his dedication, through his understanding. So if some of his methodology is a little bit dated, if some of what he does rubs a few players the wrong way, personally, I think you'll live with that based upon what he has done. This is a franchise that hadn't sniffed what they have done since in his tenure in a very long time. And so it rubs me the wrong way that 3 days later, because he benched Cat for the fourth quarter of a game 2, or wherever it is that he made somebody mad, or he played, God help us, he played everybody in all these games, that this is the reason that they needed to fire him. But it's not my decision to make. So go ahead, Monica. I can tell you want to jump in.
I think, Greeny, I can appreciate that sentiment. And I do think that widely it is, to JB's point, a lot of respect for what was built. But I think, unfortunately, this obviously has a negative connotation because a man is out of his job. But I do think at some point you can outgrow one another mutually. And so, yes, I get it. You are right. Thibs deserves a ton of respect. Great basketball mind, all of that. But I do think, to a degree, this is sort of the life cycle. And I don't know that it's all bad in terms of the opportunity to optimize this group differently and really chase championships.
Go ahead, Coach.
One of the things I wanted to say is, what's happening now in the NBA is there are teams that are being run by what perception is instead of basketball reality, right? As coaches, we live in basketball reality. And when you look at basketball reality, Thibs did a heck of a job and deserves to help move this group forward. A lot of things happen, voices from the outside, the perceptions of fans.